What is going on, guys? Money Webby here. We're back with week 2 in the books and another waiver wire video for you guys to go and find some gems to bolster your lineup if you've suffered any injuries this week or if you just need some guys to fill in if your team's struggling. But we got some injury report to go after. We're looking at fantasypros.com, a nice article by Jason Katz. So thank you for this article and just going to run through this. So leave a like in the video if you guys are enjoying this content so I can keep it coming to you guys. It really helps out my videos to grow and to get some more viewers on it. And subscribe if you guys are new here to get these videos every single week. I do this waiver wire video. My DraftKings picks will come tomorrow, so I'm excited about this. But to go over the injury notes, Jimmy Graham, he left the game with a knee injury, but he came back in. He's been very disappointing this year, so keep an eye out on that knee for him. Then you got Fat Rob Kelley. He left the game with some reportedly maybe fractured ribs, whatever. So that really will help some RJ Ryan and then Chris Thompson out of the backfield, who's a great PPR option. It seems like this year he's been doing some work out of the backfield, running the ball, which is surprising as well. So keep a lookout for that, the news for Fat Rob. Then you got Jordan Reed. Not surprising at all. This guy cannot stay in the field. It's saying that he got an SC sprain or whatever, which is around his shoulder area. Similar injury to the one he had last year. He had an AC joint sprain. He actually played through that last year, but that's really going to limit him. So keep an eye out on that. You might need to look for a fill-in tight end there. Then you got Coleman, a same injury as last year. Broke his hands. Very bad luck. That's probably going to be around 4 to 6 weeks. Last year he missed it with 6 weeks, so keep an eye out on that. Then you got Jordan Howard. He got a shoulder injury coming into the week, and then he left the game with a sling on his arm, so you might need to keep up to date on that if you got Jordan Howard, and might need a fill-in running back. He's been very disappointing as well, with Tariq Cohen taking a lot of that work out of the receiving game, so really hurting his floor. Then you got Greg Olsen, one of the best tight ends in the league. He got a broken foot. They're saying that it's not going to be season-ending, but that's going to be a long injury, so you're definitely going to need a fill-in for him, and I got some guys on the waiver wire you can target for him. And then you got Gronk. It's saying that it's not going to be serious. He said he was all systems go after the game, so he should be good to go. Rex Burkhead, not really serious enough. I don't think anyone's really playing him. Corey Davis retweaked his hamstring. He had that bothering him through the preseason, so that's very bad. That will probably boost up Rashard Matthews. And then Taywan Taylor, a very fast guy. He calculated he ran like the fastest speed, I guess, this week. So that guy is blazing fast. So he could get a little bit of boost from that. Jordy Nelson, a quad injury. We have no word on that so far. Randall Cobb, a shoulder injury as well. So those injuries are something to look after. Geronimo Allison can really benefit from that if Cobb and Jordy Nelson are out. That'll also give a boost to Devontae Adams, obviously. So those are some injuries to keep a lookout for this waiver wire. This guy is a pickup based on those injuries. That's really how you find the waiver wire people, just from people just getting hurt, then extra opportunities for the guys behind them. So let's get into the guys I like to go after to pick up on the waiver wire this week. So the number one waiver wire pickup is going to be the running back on the Seahawks, Chris Carson. He's done very well this year. Thomas Rawls actually started the game yesterday, and he just looked awful. He got 5 carries for 4 yards in the first quarter, and then they just pulled him out of the game because he just looked so bad. And then Chris Carson took over the rest of the game. Carson ended up with 51 out of the 83 snaps, and Rawls only finished with 16. So Chris Carson really looks like he's locked and solidified the starting running back job for the Seahawks. Eddie Lacy he wasn't even active yesterday, so looks like Carson has the job. He got 20 carries for 93 yards yesterday, and he did well week 1 as well, 6 carries for 39 yards, so it really looks like this is the guy for the team, and he's the one that iced the game for them. They were up 12-9, they got the ball back, and then Chris Carson, he got 5 carries for 41 yards on their last drive to ice the game. So they must really like this guy after what he's done the first 2 weeks. Actually, a report came out that one of his teammates thought he should have been the starting running back to even begin the year just because he looked so good in training camp compared to the other guys like Lacy and Rawls who have been a disaster the last 2 years. So I really like Carson. He doesn't have that much upside considering he doesn't catch the ball that much. Only 2 catches for 17 yards in the first 2 weeks. But if he can continue what he's doing, I think he could be a nice mid-range running back too for your team. Their offensive line is still very bad, so that's something to consider. Like, his upside isn't that great. He doesn't have the same offensive line that Marshawn Lynch had back in the day after they traded Jimmy Graham. Traded for Jimmy Graham. They traded away their best offensive lineman. So the offensive line is not the same unit, but Chris Carson, he looks very good. So if you need some help at running back, definitely go after him. And my second favorite waiver wire pickup is another running back, RJ Ryan, with Fat Rob out for around, I'm going to guess, 4 weeks. if he has that fractured rib, I think Samaje Perine could take over the job in the time that Kelley's out. This guy was a very good running back in college. Hasn't looked great in the preseason. In the first week, he was given work here with 21 carries, only 67 yards. He started the game very slow, but his last 2 drives, he started to pick it up, started to run with more authority, and looked more comfortable in the offense. So I think this is the guy that can just continue to get better every single week with Fat Rob out of the fold. We know that Rob Kelley is not that great of a running back, so I think Perine can definitely take over the job here. And with Chris Thompson really the only other running back on the team, Perine should be getting at least 10 carries a game. If you look at Fat Rob's game log when he was starting, he had at least 10 carries in 10 out of the 11 games he started over the last 2 years, including this year. So I think Perine's a nice little running back too for your team if you're hurting at running back. And yeah, so he could win the job. So he could be a solidified running back too the rest of the way. Chris Thompson, a smaller back, doesn't really run the ball, hasn't been a great runner throughout his career. So I definitely like Samaje Perine with his talent in college. If you can bring that over to the NFL just a little bit and just be that running back for the Redskins that they were expecting, he could be a nice option for your team. So he is my second running back to go after on the waiver wire. So Carson, then Perine from me, and then for another running back on the same team, we got Chris Thompson, more of a PPR guy, so if you're employing standard leagues, I really wouldn't go after him, but in full point PPR, a very good option here. He's been targeted 12 times already in his 2 games, 7 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown, and he looked good running the ball last week, surprisingly. That's his best game ever, running the ball, 3 carries for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't expect him to continue that, but I think he could see a slight uptick in carries around 5 per game and get a few more snaps with Fat Rob out of the fold. So a nice PPR option. He should be getting around 3 catches a game. So I really like Thompson as my third running back to pick up, especially in PPR. In Standard League, I would prefer the other guy I'm going to recommend coming later. So those are it for the running backs for now. Let's move over to wide receiver. Another guy I really like, Rashard Higgins on the Browns here. Had a very good week this week. 7 catches on 11 targets for 95 yards. A nice option considering the injury to Corey Coleman. I expect him to be out at least 4 weeks. And Kenny Britt has looked absolutely atrocious. I think he's trying to get cut from this Browns team because he just has looked so bad. Only 2 catches for 15 yards through 2 games for Kenny Britt. So Rashard Higgins is the guy to own here in the Browns offense for receiving. So I think he should be getting around 10 targets a game without Corey Coleman. They literally have no one else to throw to. Maybe David Njoku gets a boost here as well. So Rashard Higgins, a great guy to pick up if you're hurting at wide receiver. I think he should be a solid wide receiver 3 until Corey Coleman comes back. So definitely pick him up if you need a wide receiver. And for another option at wide receiver, it's going to be J.J. Nelson. Had a great week. One of the darlings of week 2. 5 catches for 120 yards and a 45-yard touchdown. Actually had another touchdown that was overturned. So he could have had 3 touchdowns through the first 2 weeks, but 2 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. It was against a very bad secondary on the Colts, so you can't take it with that much for what it's worth. But I think this is the guy to own, especially if John Brown he just can't stay on the field, was out this week. So if John Brown continues to be hurt like he has been over the last 2 years, I love J.J. Nelson as the number 2 option for this Cardinals offense. And Larry Fitzgerald, he is still old, still 34 years old, and he disappeared week 2. He always fades away as the year goes on. So I think J.J. Nelson could have a nice little year, be a nice wide receiver 3, especially without John Brown. And yeah, he's been consistent through the first 2 weeks, 5 catches in each game. So I think this is the guy, and their offensive line is very banged up, and they're without David Johnson probably for the whole entire year, so they're going to have to do something in the offense, and Palmer will probably be looking down the field for J.J. Nelson a lot, so I really like him. Jerron Brown, another guy to look after if John Brown is out, so Jerron Brown if John Brown is out, and then J.J. Nelson, but there's not, this offense isn't that great, so I don't know how many mouths they can really feed, so I think J.J. Nelson is the guy to go after, and for the last running back I'm looking at, a nice standard guy. I don't know how much I like him in PPR because he doesn't catch the ball. Lamar Miller should be staying in the field for that receiving work. He only got 17 snaps this past week, but I think he's a much better runner than Lamar Miller. He got 12 carries for 40 yards. Not that great on the ground, but they only really used him in short yardage situations where their defense is kind of loaded the box, and he couldn't really get anything going. But when they gave him some room, he looked very good. Could actually break some tackles, unlike Lamar Miller. That guy just falls down every time someone touches him. So I think Dante Foreman is going to take over Lamar Miller within these next few weeks and then get around 15 carries a game. And the Texans can't really do anything on offense, so they're going to have to run the ball. Deshaun Watson looks like a deer in the headlights so far. So D'Onta Foreman, his upside is definitely limited, but in standard leagues, I like him as a nice running back 2 for your team. And then in PPR leagues, I like him as a running back 3. If they use him in the receiving game, he could definitely have some more upside, but he's not a great receiver. He showed that in college, more of just a powerful back. But I think he's a better runner than Lamar Miller. So if you have Lamar Miller, I would definitely go and pick up D'Onta Foreman. If you're struggling at running back, he's a nice little guy that you can throw on your bench until he takes over Lamar Miller. I think that's bound to happen this year. The Texans have tried him for the last 20 games. He hasn't showed anything. So D'Onta Foreman is the guy to go pick up if you're struggling at running back. Guys that should have been picked up in your league, but they might not have been. First off, Buck Allen had a very good week. Terrence West is dealing with an injury, so Buck Allen did well. And the time that Terrence West is off the field, Buck Allen got some extended work. Because of that, I really like him. He looked good, so Buck Allen, definitely go pick him up if he's available. Then Cooper Kupp, he might be dropped after a lackluster game too, but I still think he's a very good player. Then Alvin Kamara, looking like a good receiving back out of the backfield for that Saints offense. We know that Drew Brees loves to utilize the running backs out of the backfield, so he's great for PPR leagues. And then Marquise Lee had around 11 targets in his game for the Jags and looked good. So Marquise Lee, if you need help at wide receiver, and if no one picked him up in your league, definitely go and get him. And for tight end, we saw some injuries with guys like Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed with that SC sprain, and then Gronk might be out. So if you need a tight end, some guys I'm looking after. First off, if Hunter Henry or Eric Ebron were dropped in the league, you can go and pick up them. They're still great players. They just had poor week 1s. I think they have great talent and have great upside. So Ebron and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry had a nice bounce back week 2, 7 catches for 80 yards, so you can go and pick him up. People actually dropped him. I got him in one of my leagues, so someone dropped him. So I really like Hunter Henry. And then for some other guys that are probably available, Ben Watson had a very good week. 8 catches for 91 yards. He's less than 1% owned on ESPN, so you can definitely go and get him. We know that Joe Flacco loves to target the tight ends. Dennis Pitta actually led the team in targets last year for the Ravens, so I think Ben Watson could start getting a solid amount of targets every week and great for PPR. And another player with some upside, David Njoku. With the absence of Corey Coleman with that broken hand, Njoku can start get some more targets and more usage in the offense. He got a touchdown week 2, 3 catches for 27 yards, and this Browns team look like they're going to be working from behind every single game this year again. So definitely look at David Njoku. Then you got Zach Miller as well. A nice little option in this Bears offense. 6 catches this week. Good for PPR. 10 catches in the first 2 weeks. Jason Witten, he might be a good streamer option in games where they're going to be down. The Cowboys, Witten should be getting more work, but I don't expect him to be down until week 5, maybe against Green Bay. The next 2 games, they should be up. So Witten, not a great streamer for the next 2 weeks, but I like him in certain matchups. And that's pretty much it. Austin Hooper had a down week. He's going to be very up and down. Kobe Fleener is a good streamer for this week against Carolina. Without Willie Snead, he could get another touchdown and get some more targets as he mans the middle of the field for the Saints offense. So those are the guys I'm looking after for pickups at tight end if you suffer one of those injuries. So definitely go and pick up those guys. And that is going to be it, guys. Those are the people to go and pick up on your waiver wire. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like I said before. It really helps me out. So thank you for that. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Get these waiver wire pickups every single week. And I wish you guys luck on the wire. Be back here tomorrow for my DraftKings picks. So good luck, and we'll see you tomorrow.